Alright, moving on to species 2. And this, well, this one hit differently this time, I guess. This takes place, I think it's the same amount. The first film came out in 95. This came out in 98. And so it takes place 3 years later. And the story is 3 astronauts go to space. And they go to Mars. And they collect some soil samples. But one of them has some black goo that breaks out, it attaches itself to one of them, and wreaks havoc on the. Wait a minute, this sounds very familiar. Sounds very familiar. You sure Stan Lee didn't write this? Anyway, so yes, but this whole opening thing with the astronauts takes forever. I'm serious. We get them floating in space. We get talking, and we get what's his name? Really? The guy, the main villain of this film, who's one of the astronauts. It's not Dennis. It's not Anne. Fuck his name! Why do I forget names? Patrick. We see Patrick, and he comes down, puts an American flag down, and he says, not for one nation, not for one creed, not for one race. For everyone. Why put the American flag down if it's not for one race? If you're going for the whole human planet, the whole Earth, why put an American flag though? And you get more talking from Houston, and they collect the samples, and this goes on and on and on. Finally, we get something actually happening. When they collect the samples, they have it frozen, but then it leaks out black goop out of venom, comes out and attacks them, and this results in a 10-minute time gap, and they just are brought back to Earth. And they're told they cannot have sex for 10 days. Right? So, so they can't have sex for 10 days. Then we get this welcome back ceremony in which they only honor Patrick because the guy who hosting it is his father. And he delivers this very dark speech where he says, well, I'm looking up there. I could tell just how easy it could be to just destroy the entire world. And I'm just like, and then he's like, yeah, to the day that they all cheer. And I'm like, no, he just said it'd be easy to destroy the entire world. Anyway, we gotta get to the actual plot. And we go to Laura, who's now working in a lab, and she's created a clone of Syl, which she names Eve. And it's a genetic clone, and they're testing her to see if they can battle these alien-human hybrids that may come to Earth. The only problem is, until this film, what other reason is there to do this? They defeated the last one. I feel like there should have been a film in between this, like a 1996 release this direct sequel, because I feel like there wouldn't be a threat. I mean, you don't follow up on the rat from the end of the last one, which is baffling to me. If they were going to do that, they would have said, we got the DNA from a rat we found. They could have said that, but they don't. They just say, we cloned her. and she's genetic clone, but her human or her alien side is suppressed, so they don't have problems. Even though they do keep the male, she's not allowed around men, but she's allowed to watch the Dukes of Hazzard and baseball, which prominently feature men. And you could say, oh, but they have to be in her presence so she can sense them. Well, if that was the case, she'd still be able to sense them if they were in the damn building. Because later, when Press walks in, she sees him and she goes nuts. And you can say, oh, it's because she saw and felt him. But I feel like either one should work. They allow her to watch men on TV, and they think that won't affect her. And then they allow men in the building, but not allow her to see them. She should still be able to feel them. It just doesn't make sense to me. So yes, they do a DNA test, but they don't get to test everyone because Patrick's blood freaks out on the guy and kills him. And this is the only time we see blood do this in the film, although you could kind of argue at the end with Eve's blood it does it, but I don't. They just needed some kind of action and copy the thing, I guess. But, yes, so, so now they hire Press. They offer $1 million to come back because he won't do it otherwise. He does. He just walks straight in, even though the general who hired him knows that Eve is not allowed around men. Yet he just walks him right in there, causing him to freak out, allowing Eve to get her first scent of men, even though she should have sensed them before. It makes no sense. We also do eventually find out that she's connected to Patrick, even though they're not the same alien species. That is established, because they have this different, distinct DNA from each other. So it's not the same alien species from the first film, yet they're connected in some way. And even at the end, when you see the fully transformed Patrick, it's not the same alien design. So I'm glad they stuck with that, because they're not the same, yet I guess they could still mate, but it'd be the equal to a dog fucking a cat and thinking they're gonna have babies. They're not the same species. Why? You know? And so once murders are because apparently Patrick doesn't want to listen and he has a threesome. The worst threesome I've ever seen. Not that I've seen a lot, but who would do this? A threesome is not what they depict in this film. Although I know why they did it, because we have to get them both knocked up. But one, it doesn't make any sense, because a threesome, 2 women and a guy here, right? They'd be all in the bed at the same time. But this depicts it as that Patrick's fucking a chick in bed, while the other chick just sits there with her nightie on, going, watching the whole thing. That's not how it works. That's not how you do it. And then, so he finishes with the first chick, and says, okay, your turn. So she takes it off, and they start to go. And I understand he's part alien, but no man can finish twice in such little time. And if you can, I wouldn't brag about that. I'm just saying. And now, for some reason, the second time he's having sex, he's sprouting alien tentacles and stuff, which is not what he did the first time. So why is it different this time? And no one uses a fucking condom in this movie. I'm serious. No one. Like, I understand Patrick, because he's got the sense of the alien to breed. I understand that. But we meet up with Ann Sampras, the female member of the crew. She's having sex with her husband after it's been 10 days, I guess. And she gets impregnated. And from what we can discern, she's not infected like Patrick is. She doesn't have the alien consciousness inside her. And they present, at least in this movie, that it's a male predominant alien species, so it affects the males better or more, than the women. She just has it inside her, and then when she gets pregnant, it bursts out. But it just tentacle thing pops out, which is not. I mean, it's a different alien species, but it feels weird. None of the other ones do that. They just pop out, and you got kids. Also, every single one of the kids, and I will point this out when we get to the third one, because it makes no sense to me. Every single one of the kids that Patrick procreates are male. Every single one. There's a shot where he has them in a barn and they're all standing there. They're all boys. Alright? I want you to remember that. They're all boys. Because when you get to the third one, oh boy, it's not going to make any sense. Okay? I'm just saying. Yeah, so he's been storing all this kid in this barn down by his old house, I guess. It's a pretty weird barn. It looks small, and then, like, when they get there towards the end, Press starts walking around, and there's, like, a big area where they're just having sex, and I'm like, what kind of barn is this? It's like the barn inside Mary Poppins' purse or something. I don't know. But yeah, so they track down Ann Sampras. She's dead because of alien thing. So they gotta get Dennis, played by Michael T. Williamson, or you can call him Replacement Dan, because apparently, what I gathered from this, even the first time I watched it, was, they couldn't get Forrest Whitaker to come back, so they got another funny black guy to take his place. And honestly, I like Michael T. Williamson better. I keep confusing him with Michael G. Wilson from Bond, producer. Michael T. Williamson. I like him better. He's funnier. We find out he's not infected, but I question this every time I watch the movie, apparently. They take him in, they start doing DNA, but they won't tell him shit. He keeps asking, why you do this? What's going on? And it's okay. Everything will be fine. Just do the test. What's going on? What happened to Aunt Sampras? Aunt Sampras is dead. They won't tell him what's going on. People, if you want cooperation, you need a give and take process. You need to tell him something, because it proves in here. They don't tell him anything. So he thinks something screwy is going on. So he goes to tell Patrick so he can avoid them. Only to see Patrick blow his head off. And I do like this, that before this he does show some sort of human trait, but it doesn't help that whoever the actor is acts like a robot even before he's taken over. But you see some humanity in him. But as soon as he blows his head off and it reforms, the alien takes over. There's very little of Patrick left. The alien takes over. He starts, going on a wild fucking spree. Going after women and whatnot. Even to a hooker hotel, which, is that a thing? Or you got a hotel where hookers are just standing around and you pay for a room by the hour to have sex with a woman in? Is that really a thing? I feel like they don't exist now, but that's illegal. Why would you have an establishment that does that? I don't know. I don't know. But yes, and they discover why Dennis is not affected. He has sickle cell in his blood. He doesn't have sickle cell anemia, which means he could go on a space trip. But he has the DNA of sickle cell in his blood. And of course, this is sticking to the original one, that impurities will, human impurity will stop them from consuming you. Even though it's not the same alien species as the first film, and we do see that Eve doesn't want anything to do with him. But I don't know. It's not the same alien species, but I guess they could have a similar mating pattern thing. But they activate Eve's alien side so they can track him to a grocery store where he's got a box of cereal with his face on it, and he tries to hit on the chick and decides I'm just going to grab her and try to take her away. But then he senses Eve, and he allows himself to be arrested, and right there is a red flag. No, I'm not going to the lab. All they said was, we got to take you in and get you tested. They didn't say anything about a lab, but they don't catch on to it because these people need to be idiots. I feel like I'm forgetting something here. I can't. Then there's sickle cell, DNA, degenase. I can't think of anything. By the way, they chase him through the grocery store, right? And he escapes through the back and goes down to the basement, which apparently leads to a tunnel. Big tunnel under a grocery store. Look, I've been to a lot of grocery stores. Ain't no tunnels under there. Okay? And this is a little corner grocery store thing. Like a little small one. How is there a tunnel? Like, they come out of a tunnel at the end, and I'm just like, a tunnel under a grocery store? How does that make any sense? It's like they had a location, so they wanted to use it, but it doesn't make any sense to be underneath the grocery store. So, yes. So they take him in, and he immediately tries to mate with Eve. They won't let him go. They spray him with this stuff, which apparently is the stuff they were testing on Eve earlier that didn't work, but they're still using it. Then they discover about Dennis's blood. They're going to use that. They're going to weaponize it as a way to fight the aliens. Okay. And, yes, so we get to the climax, which I think is better than the climax of the last one. I think this movie is on par with the original as far as everything goes. But, the climax. So, Patrick makes it back to the barn where he encounters his father, played by James Cromwell. We see a last fleeting humanity in Patrick before the alien inside kills his father. And then he ascends his children to cocoons to grow and become adults. The others show up because Eve... Okay, now we need to talk about this escape because there is a continuity error within this. So Eve breaks through the window, much like Syl did in the first film when she was a child. Why they didn't strengthen their windows, I don't know. But she escapes. She gets shot down, but we need her for the climax, so bullets don't harm her like it did Sampras. So, yeah, she just regenerates, which we've seen with Patrick earlier, but I don't know, she was already aliens popping out of her, I guess, but she wasn't needed for the rest of the film, I guess. So Eve gets away and leads them directly to Patrick, but when she jumps down, she breaks through the window, she jumps down, we see she's got underwear on. White cotton underpanties underneath her dress, right? She meets up with Patrick, and they immediately disrobe to have sex. And when she takes off her dress, she's butt-ass naked underneath. her panties are mysteriously gone. And it's not just the fact that you can't see them. Or maybe they're there, but they're white, so you can't see them. They wouldn't be white. She was shot. There would be bloodstains all over them from being shot. So you'd see them. But she's just butt-ass naked. So I think what may have happened here was that they edited the underpants, the underwear, the panties, into the scene where she jumped down because they knew that the dress would go up. So they edited the underpants, but then they just needed her to be naked at the end. I don't know. But we get some pretty cool creature effects. Okay, the effects in this film range from wow to wow. Because it's like, the practical stuff is really good. The CGI stuff is really bad. And it's like, why combine? If you're gonna have practical effects, do it all practical. I get some of the blood stuff. You need like the blood attack monster, like the blood monster earlier, and then the blood that goes back into Eve. I get it. But there's way too much CGI in this film. And it's 1998 CGI, which wasn't the best. And like I said in my review for the first one, reminds me too much of Johnny Quest type thing. This is a little bit better, I guess. But yeah, so we get the alien sex. So we ever want to see what that looks like. Tentacles coming out of the nipples and whatnot. But they arrive, and Press goes to find the two aliens, while Laura and Dennis are spraying the DNA fog all over the aliens, which it does eventually work. You have Dennis having a inferiority complex, but he's like, wait, my blood ain't good enough, and then it's working, it kills them. Dennis gets attacked anyway, but gets killed, and not Dennis, the alien gets killed. And Press finds them, and is going to shoot them with a gun, even though we know it won't work. Now, I know they have maybe, is it a dart gun? They have darts with Dennis's blood. He never uses it, but it looks like a regular gun. We know guns don't work, but if it's a dart gun with Dennis's blood, because I know they have darts with Dennis's blood in it, but that doesn't lead anywhere, because it doesn't make sense either, because if it was, he would just use the gun later, but Laura is able to make Eve cooperate with them and fights back, which ends up with what I am assuming is a giant tongue, although it looks very phallic, going into her throat and killing her. And so then Dennis yells at Press. He goes, Press, use my blood. So he grabs a pitchfork, stabs Dennis in the leg, and then stabs the Patrick alien with it, which causes the Patrick alien to dissipate and disintegrate and stuff, which is really cool. Then we get a sweeping shot of Eve, and I do like this, but it is really weird, because you go up the alien body, you see alien vagina, which is really weird, and as it changes, as it goes up, it changes, and you see human titties, and it's Tasha Henstridge again. She plays Eve, it's because she's a clone. And we see her get carted in. Okay, this is something that really bugged me. I don't know why, but we see Eve getting carted into an ambulance. Be taken away to the morgue, her dead body. You cover up dead bodies completely. But no, they have her laying there. Her arms are out. They got it covered like this. Arms are out, head's out. That's not how you cart away dead bodies. You cover them completely. And we need her up so we can do a jump scare later. And an ending that's really too much tacked on into it. We'll get to it. And so Dennis gets put in a helicopter with another African American woman, where we are reminded that he has yet to have sex. I thought he had a girlfriend. or a wife. He had someone that was with him. And that's another thing with Patrick. He has a girlfriend. Yet he's having a threesome with these two women. Then he has sex with the girlfriend later, and she gets impregnated and has the baby. It's... Do they care about their spouses? The only one is Sampras, and she ends up dead too. And her husband, boyfriend, whatever. So we get our ending here, right? It sets up the third film, which has way too much. So there's a cat. And the cat, well, I don't know where the cat came from, but it's on top of Eve. I think it's implied, it just freaks out and jumps. It's supposed to be implied, I think, that the blood attacked her, but then we see that Eve is actually pregnant and her stomach protrudes. But then we see the most bullshit thing in the scene, that one of Patrick's children is alive and somehow has made it on to the ambulance. That is two ways of bullshit. One, they destroyed every single one of those kids in there because every single one of those kids were in the cocoons. So even if one did survive, it would be an adult. So the fact that you just show one of the kids there is bullshit. He had every single one of those kids in there. There's no way. Two, don't you think someone would notice if there was just some weird kid and a cat? Where did the cat come from? In an ambulance with a dead body? I don't know, but you see, and then end film, because we need to have a sequel that would come out 6 years later in 2004. Mostly because they probably didn't know how to follow that up. There's so much tacked on the ending, it's just... As it is, Species 2 is not a bad film. I would put it on par with the first one. I enjoy it just about as much. There's some things that get lost in the kerfuffle. You go from, like, Dennis just sort of assumes he's a part of the team once he witnesses the whole suicide attempt, and he's there, and I feel like he's supposed, I really feel he's supposed to be the replacement character for Dan, but they're like, oh, but Dan was a psychic, what can he give? So we'll make him have superpowered blood that can defeat the aliens, I guess. And the beginning of this with the alien really reminded me of Venom. I'm sorry, I grew up in the 90s with the alien costume, alien suit saga, whatever, on the Spider-Man animated series, and this was very familiar to me watching this now. It's just, especially with the Venom movies, it just, I don't know why Marvel didn't rip them off, didn't take them to court, I don't know, but for me, this movie is enjoyable. There are some problems with it. But for me, Species 2 is still pretty good. So what are your thoughts on Species 2? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.